Tonight on CFTK, the Vancouver Canucks season starts this week. We prepare for a provincial election debate tomorrow between three parties and an analysis of the decline of the fertility rate in the country and in BC.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, I'm Damian Smith and thank you for joining us. Our first story of the day is about this past weekend where the Terrace area also happened to see several members of both the Rotary Club of Terrace as well as the Rotary Club of Skeena Valley doing some nice work in order to make sure that any kids who camp in Terrace have a place to stay. The work in question, that was the club members, saw them assist the City of Terrace in starting the process of installing a pair of brand new play structures at the Rotary Playground located on the Ferry Island Municipal Campground. The playground is set to be closed to the public until the installations finally get properly finished, although in their statement on the subject, the Rotary Club did not give an estimate on when exactly they thought the work at the playground would be done. Well, the decrease of fertility rate has been well documented now for Canadians, and it looks as though things may not increase anytime soon. Kathy Lee from CTV has the latest.
They're cute and cuddly, but the nursery population in Canada is shrinking. New data shows the country's fertility rate has dropped to an average of 1.26 children per woman, a record low, with British Columbia having the nation's lowest fertility rate at 1 child per woman.
When we get below 1.3, we may be entering what's called a low fertility trap. And that means it might be next to impossible to raise the fertility rate in the future.
The agency says Canada now joins other countries such as Italy, Spain, Japan, and South Korea for lowest low fertility countries. It says the number of births in Canada between 2022 and 2023 was stable, but that the number of women of childbearing age increased, which accounts for the lower fertility rate. Experts say the number has been declining for years for various personal reasons, but also the rising cost of living. That's led to women deciding either not to have children or delaying.
We're seeing more women coming to see us later in life than ever before, into their early 40s, mid 40s, even late 40s, hoping to have their first child. StatsCan also reported the rate of premature births in 2023 was 8.3%, the highest recorded in the past 5 decades, saying it could be due to a higher proportion of older mothers as risk of a premature birth increases as the age of the mother increases. I think some people are having to make these choices because of economic reasons, career reasons, societal reasons, social reasons, support reasons.
If the fertility rate doesn't improve, there could also be economic consequences, with experts pointing to possible labor shortages in the future. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Well, this Saturday, the Skeena Valley held yet another rally in front of the New Mills Memorial Hospital in Terrace later in the morning, and this rally was done for a couple of reasons. And once again, the society was trying to get the province's attention and shine a spotlight on the unmet needs of seniors in northern BC, but they also used the rally as a way to support another movement called Tin Cup, looking to highlight the hardships of seniors living on government pensions. And it was a successful season for the Vancouver Canucks last season, making it to the final 8 of the NHL playoffs. But there are a couple of questions upcoming about this season, especially in between the pipes. Here's Martin McMahon with a season preview, if you will.
It was a playoff run with moments of elation, parties outside the arena, and moments of pure ecstasy inside. But as the Canucks prepare for this campaign, there are serious questions, especially in goal, with star goaltender Thatcher Demko dealing with an ongoing knee problem.
It is a unique injury that he outlined. No hockey player has seemingly had this injury, or at least they can't find any documented cases. So that's a huge unknown.
If Demko misses time this season, that means playoff hero Arturs Šilovs, the young Latvian, will be the first option in goal, with the Canucks also signing experienced backup Kevin Lankinen as insurance.
You feel good about Arturs Šilovs based on the way he played in high leverage situations last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It would have been a heck of an ask, though, to require him to play game in, game out like a normal NHL starting goaltender.
The Canucks also lost 2 big players to free agency, imposing defenseman Nikita Zadorov and elite two-way centerman Elias Lindholm. On the positive side, the team added top 6 sniper Jake DeBrusque. The winger is expected to provide more support to Elias Pettersson, who struggled down the stretch last season. The team is looking for another strong start, something that helped propel them to a first-place finish in their division last season.
It was nice to come out flying, and it allows for, when you have your dips in the middle of the season, to not panic as much because you have confidence that it's going to work, and I think that's why we put so much emphasis on summer training.
The Canucks open their season Wednesday night at home to the Calgary Flames before hosting the Flyers on Friday. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up next, the BC election is drawing very near with a debate scheduled very soon. The BC election campaign is about to reach a critical juncture this week, with 3 main party leaders set to participate in a television debate tomorrow. Supporters of the leaders, New Democrat David Eby, BC Conservative John Rustad, and Sonia Furstenau of the Greens, see the debate as an opportunity for their candidates to get messages to voters under the glare of the TV lights. Now, the campaign up to now has seen Eby and Rustad trade insults about supporting conspiracy theories and weak leadership. Meanwhile, images from the social media show acts of vandalism at Vancouver billionaire Chip Wilson's property and the sign he posted calling the NDP communist. And with the TV debate less than 24 hours away, once again, here's Martin McMahon with a provincial election preview.
From an ongoing shortage of educators to the thousands of students learning in portables, it hasn't been an entirely smooth ride for the NDP government on the education file since taking power in 2017.
Have they done enough? No, not as much as we would like, but their steps forward have been positive. And more importantly, I think it's that there hasn't been any really impactful and harmful things done on students.
And by impactful and harmful, the BC Teachers Federation is referencing the Conservative plan to remove the sexual orientation and gender identity, or SOGI, resource from the school system.
So we're going to make sure that we get all the ideology and all this sort of stuff out of our education system. That includes getting rid of SOGI.
So the idea of starting to dismantle pieces like that, the SOGI piece that have really made every student feel comfortable in the school and feel safe and supported, that could be really damaging to what's a great system right now.
We asked people in Vancouver what they'd like to see prioritized by the provincial government after this election.
More teachers and smaller classroom sizes, absolutely.
Our child goes to private school, but maybe any kind of supplement for private school would be good, and our child does have some special needs, so maybe more supplemental funding for that.
In the past, when the BC Liberals were in charge, I found that funding towards the schools seemed to be lacking, so now things are better, so just continue with the same old, same old.
During the campaign, the Green Party has arguably provided the most detail on specific plans, including a promise to provide every student with a laptop at a cost of $110 million annually. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
And Hurricane Milton is now making its mark in Florida and the rest of the South, with a busy week of strong conditions upcoming. Here's Christiane Cordero with ABC News.
Residents on Florida's coast are filling up sandbags and preparing for the worst, with Hurricane Milton gaining strength in the Gulf of Mexico this morning, eyeing landfall this week. Governor Ron DeSantis put Florida's Gulf Coast on alert, with 51 counties now under an emergency order.
Know that you're not going to be able to be told with 100-degree certainty where this storm is going to go this far out in advance.
It's set to be the second round of storm surges, heavy rain, and devastating wind speeds in as many weeks. Recovery from Hurricane Helene in the southeast states still in its early stages.
How are you doing? We're making it.
The National Guard has completed at least 422 flight missions since the storm hit, delivering medical supplies, generators, and other necessities. North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican, pushing back against misinformation claiming disaster funds have been spent on migrants.
Many of these observations are not even from people on the ground. I believe that we have to stay focused on rescue operations, recovery operations, clearing operations, and we don't need any of these distractions on the ground.
Crews are working around the clock to restore power and cell service as the death toll passes 227 people, with more than 170 still missing. Mackenzie Rink got good news. After 8 days with no contact, she and her mom could finally reunite.
For me, it was just relief and thankfulness that I have a mom and I have somebody, because there's so many people that are losing those that I know that they just wish they could hug again, and they never will be able to, and they may never know if they can.
Moving to tonight's forecast in the northwest, the coast should see cloudy conditions with showers beginning sometime near midnight. There might even be a risk of thunderstorms with winds coming from the southeast at 30 kilometers per hour and a temperature at 9 degrees. The Terrace and Kitimat region should also see a cloudy night with a 40% chance of showers earlier this evening, and winds are arriving from the south at 30 kilometers per hour, increasing to 50 and a low of 6 degrees. In the Bulkley Valley, there should be some periods of rain in there with about 5 to 10 millimeters, with winds from the southeast at 20 kilometers per hour and a low of 4. And now on to your weekly weather forecast. After some sun today, the coast should see another cloudy week with steady temperatures as high as 13 degrees on Friday and a low of 10, which will be Wednesday. The low at night will be 7 degrees for 3 days in a row. The Terrace and Kitimat region should have some cooler temperatures with around the same amounts of rain throughout the week, and the high will be 11 degrees on Friday. At nighttime, it will also be much cooler at a low of 5 degrees on Wednesday night. And the Bulkley Valley should have some sun tomorrow, followed by rain and even some flurries on Thursday. The high of 11 degrees will be on the weekend, and the low will be 1 degree on Wednesday and Thursday night. And now on to your Northwest roadside report. Highway 16 has construction in Burns Lake. There's utility work in Fraser Lake and Vanderhoof. There's bridge maintenance at Dome Creek Camp and paving operations near Goat River. On Highway 37, there's utility work near Delta Peak. There's roadside brushing north of Mesiadin Junction and slippery sections near Good Hope Lake. And on the Nishka Highway, there's maintenance and flooding and construction near New Ianch. And these are what the roads are looking like around the region. Still to come, why the fluids you put in your body can create an increased possibility of a stroke. Well, more data has been collected on stroke cases around the country, and the fluids that you put in your body are going to be a big indicator on a possible increase of a stroke. Paul Hollingsworth from CTV has the rest.
Researchers studied more than 13,000 people who had suffered a stroke, and they collected data on what they were drinking.
Fizzy drinks, fruit juice drinks, and water. And within tea, we looked at black tea, green tea, and other types of tea.
The study found stroke risk worsened when multiple drinks were consumed daily. Fizzy drinks, both with sugar and artificially sweetened, can increase the chances of having a stroke by 22%. The increased risk jumps to 37% with fruit juice consumption.
Or you walk into a grocery store and you can see some 100% fresh squeezed actual fruit juice, and then you see lots of other fruit drinks that are made from concentrates that have lots of additives and preservatives and lots of sugars and extra things.
The study also found drinking 7 glasses of water each day could reduce your risk for stroke.
We haven't found a cure for anything. We haven't found a magic cure to prevent everything from happening.
Dr. Andrew Smith's earlier research showed more than 4 cups of coffee a day can also lead to higher stroke risk. Smith says some types of tea have the opposite effect.
We found that with 3 to 4 cups a day of black tea or green tea, you reduced your chance of stroke by about 1/3. What was interesting to us from that was that benefit was not seen for people who chose to add milk to their tea.
Dr. Christopher Labos is skeptical about some of this research because he says accurate data is hard to collect.
When you're asking people to average out their food consumption over years, I'm not convinced that this type of approach amounts to much more than sort of a rough guess.
According to Smith, the purpose of this research was to provide information and education.
Sometimes it might be best for you to make a different choice.
Hoping to give people the tools to minimize the risk of having a stroke. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
And towards the end of last week, a logging truck that was traveling on Highway 37 South managed to get overturned, but the crash itself wasn't the only negative consequence to come out of the incident. The logs from the truck ended up hitting a pipe from the Pacific Northern gas station at Mount Layton Hot Springs and eventually caused a gas leak. And Terrace's RCMP ended up closing down the highway in both directions for a while as P&G's crews were eventually able to close the leak sometime later. And it's not currently known what led to the truck crashing, but the driver of the truck only suffered some minor injuries. Now, medal baskets and awards on PGA Golf Tour Awards are some of the accomplishments that a Canadian artist is creating through various sorts of medals. Here's Sarah Plowman with the rest of the story.
Nature circles Nguitkook First Nation, also known as Tobic, where Shane Pearly Dutcher's journey is mapped by tradition. Weaving metal into baskets, the latest for a museum in Maine.
That represents the people, the Wabanaki people.
At a glance, the strips look like bark.
So when you get closer to it, you start to realize that it is actually metal, and it's copper. It's got some patina on it.
From large to medium size, Pearly Dutcher has pushed what's possible. His work has been displayed at art shows, won an international award, and was the trophy for a PGA golf tournament in New Brunswick this summer. Then there was 2008, when he crafted a pin worn by residential school survivors as Canada apologized in the House of Commons.
It was probably one of the most significant pieces I've ever made because of the weight of the message and the intention of the piece.
As he shifts to larger pieces, the Wolastoqey's artist's work is sought after.
I think it's this wonderful mesh of looking at his community, his culture, their past, and putting his own artistic spin on things.
Pearly Dutcher sees the basket as a symbol of Indigenous resilience.
It really represents how all of our people come together, and that weave and the weavers and standards kind of represent all of our people kind of, working together, keeping each other strong.
Baskets to carry teachings and tradition into this generation. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Nguitkook First Nation.
And now we turn our attention to the stock market. The Canadian dollar is down about 0.2 cents. The price of gold is down $5.10. The price of oil is up $1.80. Natural gas is down 10 cents. And aluminum is up $16.50. In Toronto, the TSX is down 60.12. The Venture Index is down just over 3. And NASDAQ is down 234, with the Dow Jones being down just under 400. Now over in Montreal, Sarah's Fund is an organization making its mark in the local community, turning tough and personal stories into positive ones. Here's Anastasia Dextrin of CTV News.
Christina D'Angelis is proud to be volunteering and sporting her red cape. She's what the Montreal Children's Hospital calls a hero, meaning she was once a young cancer patient in their care. At 11 years old, Christina was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, a form of cancer that starts in the bones.
I got really sick for a while and I lost mobility in my arm, but I'm here today and I'm healthy now. And I was in remission 1 year after in 2016.
Now at 20 years old, Christina is one of many heroes and families who are giving back to Sarah's Fund for Cedars. Founded in 2001 by Sarah Cook, then a young cancer patient herself, the fund has raised more than $14 million toward providing life-changing care and programs. Stroll and Dash event co-chair Casey Taba says the community's enthusiasm goes to show just how much effort is needed and appreciated.
Sarah's Fund for Cedars supports Sarah's Floor. It's the pediatric oncology division at the Children's. Sarah's Floor is for patients that are there for an extended period of time. 2 of our top fundraising teams this year were families from Sarah's Floor, so it shows the value of the floor that sees the value in it, is giving back.
Connie Richards, the coordinator on Sarah's Floor, says there are ways that truly anyone can show their support.
I have heroes volunteering
running. There's staff, there's nurses, there's doctors, there's families. People are just all pitching in. Sarah's floor is a family floor.
It's with family in mind that this year, Sarah's Fund will support HOPE, a program created to address patients and families' psychological needs. With cancer being the second leading cause of death by disease among Canadian children, according to Health Canada, Sarah's Fund has committed to raising $365,000 for HOPE by 2026. So more heroes like Christina can stroll, dash, dance, and more. Anastasia Dextrine, CTV News.
Political observers say the battlegrounds for the BC election may stretch further into traditional stronghold territories, making it difficult to predict. Ex-Vancouver's mayor and NDP MP Kennedy Stewart said the collapse of the BC United and BC redrawing its boundaries for ridings in many places makes the October 19th election hard to figure out. Stewart said having an opponent further right of the political spectrum in the BC Conservatives may have prompted the NDP to move to the center on issues like the carbon tax and involuntary care for people addicted to drugs. He said that this could hurt the NDP with its base, opening up previously uncompetitive ridings in Vancouver. And we have another plane malfunction coming out of Las Vegas, except this one is a little bit different this time around. Here's Phil Lipoff of ABC News.
Dramatic video, flames spewing from a Frontier Airlines jet as it lands in Las Vegas.
We have no communication with the pilot whatsoever. His radios are out.
It happens fast. Watch again slowed down. As the plane touches down, you can see the fireball erupt.
They got a fire in the right engine.
Flight 1326 from San Diego first reported a problem around 3:15. The pilot declaring an emergency, smoke in the cockpit. The landing hard. Passenger Jose Carlos Mena capturing this frightening video as the plane came to a stop, the engine in flames.
In the moment that we were landing, we just see through the window that we were on fire, and everyone was scared and surprised.
Smoke still billowing, crews at Harry Reid International at the ready, quickly moving in, dousing the flames. Passengers saying they were unaware there was a problem until the fiery landing.
It was a very hard landing and followed by a lot of shaking in the plane, which something seemed wrong, especially when I looked out the window and I saw fire vehicles before we even landed. You could see them down on the ground there. I figured something was wrong. I didn't think it was our plane.
Overnight, the plane parked while investigators figure out what went wrong.
This aircraft on landing, an Airbus 321, had all sorts of sparks down around the main gear. What we also don't know is whether or not it was a result of a hard landing or something else.
And I've got a statement here from the airline. Frontier says, in part, no injuries are reported, that there were a total of 190 passengers and 7 crew members on board, and the cause of the incident is under investigation. The FAA, by the way, taking the lead on that investigation. Phil Lipoff, ABC News, New York.
And according to the Terrace RCMP, they also published another weekly report that covered the last few days of September and the start of October. The most detailed incident in the report talked about how a woman had crashed her vehicle into both the telephone pole and a parked vehicle early in the morning, and she was determined to be impaired by alcohol after she was found to not have sustained any major injuries by paramedics, but she was then arrested by the RCMP. Another part of the report mentioned that a man from the 2900 block of Spark Street broke his nightly probation curfew and ended up getting hit with a new charge. That'll be all for tonight's cast. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good night.